What's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. We have another edition of FanDuel Sports Network Live. Getting you ready for Phillies and Braves. A good one down there in Atlanta at Truist Park. Should be a good one. The Phillies, one of the best teams in baseball, and the Atlanta Braves looking to get things going here early in the season. Russ Dorsey with you alongside my main man, Ben Verlander. Been not a full slate here tonight, but still an interesting series coming up tonight with the Braves and Phillies wrapping things up there in Atlanta.
Not a full slate, but definitely some good games, including this one here. I know the Braves haven't gotten off to a great start. We've talked about it a million times, but still a good baseball team, still a great rivalry, Braves and Phillies. So I'm excited for this matchup for sure.
Before we get going here tonight, as always, we want to remind you that watching your local team is easier than ever with FanDuel Sports Network. If we're part of your cable or satellite package, you're good to go. Just check your TV lineup, prefer to stream, use your TV provider login on the FanDuel Sports Network app. No cable, no problem. Subscribe through the app with monthly, seasonal, or annual plans. You can even stream your team on Prime Video with an add-on subscription. Availability varies by region. Don't miss a pitch. Check getmyhometeams.com now. See if FanDuel Sports Network is in your area. Also, you can scan your QR code that should be in the top right corner of your screen. All right, Ben, let's talk about this game we have here tonight. Only game on the slate tonight. Phillies and the Braves. The Phillies have been playing some of the best baseball in the big leagues right now, and the Atlanta Braves, they've been scuffling, man, and they're looking to get off the schneid against a tough Phillies team. Will not be easy with a guy I know you really love on the mound, Jesus Luzardo, one of the big pickups of the offseason, maybe the most under the radar pickup of the offseason, but it's proving big dividends so far for the Phillies.
You know, under the radar because he was with the Miami Marlins, who have not been a very good baseball team, but the guy's stuff plays. He's absolutely nasty. I love both these guys. I love Luzardo. I love Schwellenbach, who I think is quickly becoming one of the more underrated pitchers in baseball. So I know you had Wheeler going in game one, and that was a great pitching matchup in that game. I love what we're getting tonight. Luzardo, Schwellenbach. Luzardo is nasty. We saw him in his, first outing. We've seen him a couple times this year, and he's just been virtually unhittable. A bunch of punch outs as well to start the year. So I like him. To your point, very underrated pickup. Was down there in Miami, always had the stuff. But from what I've seen from him, it looks like he's learned to pitch with that stuff, which isn't. I know it can be like, what does that even mean? Well, you have the nasty stuff that plays at the big leagues, but can you pitch with it? Can you get outs? Can you throw strikes? Can you throw your nasty pitches that look like strikes and then become balls? He's figured out how to pitch. We've seen 19 punch outs from him so far this year, 8 of them on sliders, as we see here on this graphic in his first 2 starts of the year. So Russ, he's been every bit as advertised, maybe even more than advertised, because as you said, he wasn't coming over to this rotation to be a 1 or 2 in the rotation. He's supposed to be depth, but he's been nasty.
Absolutely. And I think I think a lot of people are seeing more Jesus Luzardo because, to your point, not a lot of people are tuning into the Miami Marlins, but you're starting to see the version of Jesus Luzardo we saw a couple years ago, in 2023, when he's one of the best pitchers in the National League, had a ERA in the mid threes. And this offseason, there are a lot of teams that made calls to Miami about Jesus Luzardo because I think a lot of teams thought they could get this guy in the right situation with the right fit, the right pitching coach. And I think, to me, you got to be a really good starting pitcher to have your stuff stand out in a rotation that has Aaron Nola in it, and has Zach Wheeler in it, and has Christopher Sanchez in it. Like, there are a lot of dudes in that rotation, and he's been able to separate himself, and look like a guy that can be a big addition to a group that was already established.
For sure. As you mentioned, like, you go into a playoff rotation. I talk about this all the time. When you're talking playoffs, the blueprint to win is having 2 studs and then a third that gets hot and is essentially a third stud. And the Phillies have that, along with a great offense. They have that. You can go Wheeler, Nola, who Nola shows up come postseason time, so don't worry about him. But you go Wheeler, Nola, and then with this Phillies team, you have the ability to now just go with whoever the hot hand is. And if we were entering the playoffs right now, Jesus Luzardo is getting the ball. So all of a sudden, you look at this team come playoff time, and it's like, man, the one thing I feel like they've been missing come playoffs is, you have your 1 and 2, and then who do you turn to? Christopher Sanchez in the playoffs hasn't necessarily been a guy for them, though he has been good lately. It's now Jesus Luzardo. So now you look and it's like three guys with ace type stuff. You can go at them in a playoff rotation or in a playoff series. Look, that's why this team can beat anybody. If the offense is playing well and you can throw those three guys, so they can certainly beat the Dodgers. They can certainly beat the Braves if they're there in the playoffs. They can beat the Mets. They can be the team to run through in the National League, even if the Dodgers finish with, let's say, a better record over the course of 162. Man, a rotation of Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, and Jesus Luzardo is one that I do not want to see in the playoffs.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you, especially what you mentioned. Like, if that lineup is rolling like they can with some of the boppers that they have in there, they would be tough to beat. Let's look at the pitching matchup in this game tonight. Obviously, we talked about Jesus Luzardo. Spencer Schwellenbach, a guy that is really start to establish himself in the National League. Ben, I want to tell you a stat about Mr. Spencer Schwellenbach. Has retired 41 of the 45 batters he has faced this season, really getting it done at a time when the Braves, they've been scuffling, and you need that starting pitching to come through. And he's been one of the guys in that rotation that's really come through for him.
Can we just talk about how anything under a 1 whip is fantastic? Can we talk about Jesus Luzardo having a 0.92 whip, which is great? And then you look on the other side of things, and Spencer Schwellenbach has a 0.29 whip. That means not just a guy getting on a 1 is one guy getting on base, whether it be a walk or a hit per inning. So he's not even every 2 innings. He's about every 3 innings. One person gets on base right now. That is remarkable. Spencer Schwellenbach, he might not be the name of Spencer Strider. He might not be the name of Chris Sale, but he is an up-and-coming, blossoming pitcher in this league that I think has blossomed. I was high on him coming into this year, and his stuff has been really, really good so far.
Kind of burst on the scene late last year, and because Chris Sale was so good, he kind of got pushed under the radar a little bit. And I think when you look at the really good rotations around baseball, we just talked about the Phillies and what they're able to do. You got to have more than one guy if you expect to win a playoff series. Look in Seattle, where they have 4 dudes that could be a #1 starter, in a playoff series for a number of teams. You look at Kansas City and what they can do. You look at Detroit, that what they start to build up there. And so to have a strong rotation, yes, Chris Sale is going to have to be a guy. I just saw what Spencer Strider did in his rehab outing. He's looking pretty good, And then Spencer Schwellenbach, if he can be a guy that can give you 6, maybe 7 innings in a playoff game, you're feeling really good if their offense, which is scuffled, is able to look like the offense that we know.
100%. You got to get there, Russ. And that's the thing with this Braves team. And that's why I was high on them coming into this year. I loved a playoff rotation of going Strider, Sale, Schwellenbach. And all of a sudden we sit here a week or so in and it's like, well, yeah, you know what? I still do love that in the playoffs, but you got to get there. And this team's got to get it going at some point. We're sitting here and they've only won a couple ball games 2 weeks essentially into the year. And it's like, man, this Braves team has to get going, because if they do, nobody's going to want to play them with the 3-headed monster that they have at the top of the rotation. Cy Young winner last year, Triple Crown guy, Spencer Strider coming back, who in his first outing of spring, which was basically everyone else's last outing of spring training, punched out the world, every guy he faced essentially. Still looks good in his rehab start, so he is very close to coming back. Ronald Acuna, very close to coming back. So the cavalry's coming. But it's just like you can't win the division in the first couple of weeks, and you can't lose it, but you can certainly set yourself in a monstrous hole. And right now, you keep losing these games to the Phillies, and you're setting yourself in a hole for sure.
Let's go back to the Phillies real quick before we get to break. When you talk about that Phillies lineup, Bryce Harper is a name that you automatically go to, but there are a lot of guys that are really getting things cooking, heated up so far in the first couple of weeks of the season. Now, Kyle Schwarber's been doing it for a long time, and there's one thing he's going to do. He's going to hit the ball out of the ballpark. He's going to walk. That OPS over 1,100, that is fantastic. And then Nick Castellanos, a guy that has had highs and lows since he's been in Philly, but he's been swinging the bat really well, an OPS over 900. That is exactly what you want to see. We talked about depth in lineups all the time. It can't just be one guy. And Bryce Harper hasn't even gotten it going yet. Trey Turner hasn't even gotten it going yet. JT Realmuto hasn't even gotten it going yet. But when you can put Kyle Schwarber in the leadoff spot, in the 3-hole, in the 4-hole. You have Nick Castellanos in the 5-hole or 6-hole sometimes. That puts so much pressure on starting pitchers where it's like, all right, I got to get through Turner, then JT, then Harper's here, and then got Schwarber, got Castellanos. Huh, I haven't even gotten through the lineup once yet, and it might be a 3-4, 5-0 game.
For sure. And that, this offense it feels like, because it's now been the same offense for a few years, that maybe we're not talking about them as much as we should. I mean, I had this team last year, essentially the same team, except you add Jesus Luzardo. I had them winning the World Series last year. You add Jesus Luzardo now. Your offense is still very good. And I really like what they're doing this year. I almost felt like it was overthinking it a bit, plugging Kyle Schwarber in the leadoff hole, in the leadoff spot. They're still doing that a little bit this year, but I like him batting in that 3-4 spot in the lineup. Harper 2, Trey Turner leading off, who I know you mentioned hasn't really gotten going yet, and that is true, but he's still hitting 280, and it feels like he's hitting 200.
Right.
This lineup is really good. It's deep. If Nick Castellanos is hitting how he is, which is over 300 at this point, man, it's like, Russ, where's the hole with this team? Where is it? Is it the rotation? No. Is it the offense? Absolutely not. And I guess the answer is, like, you have some nasty arms in the bullpen. They're just inconsistent. And I think that's the one hole you can point to at this Phillies team. But, like, look, they just had the Dodgers come into town and beat the Dodgers. And it wasn't for lack of the Dodgers playing well. It's just the Phillies look like the better team. And that's saying something, because we've had the talks of, are the Dodgers the greatest team ever? Right. And I'm not here to discredit the Dodgers. I'm here to say, look, the Phillies are every bit as good right now. And come playoff time, you give me a 7-game series between Dodgers and Phillies. Right now, I'm taking the Phillies.
We look at the other side, Atlanta Braves, obviously it's early, and Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to go 162-0. But I look at the Braves, man, and I say, yes, you got Acuna coming back. You got Spencer Strider coming back. But offense was supposed to be the thing that you could count on with this team. I know it's early, but they got off to a slow start last year, was never able to turn it on. And you could look up in September and say all those games we didn't get in April came back to bite us. I am starting to get a little concerned for the Braves, because this is something we saw from them last year. And outside of Ronald Acuna Jr., in that lineup, you have everybody. You just got Sean Murphy back, so obviously that's going to be a big help for you. But you need to start seeing some signs of life here from guys like Matt Olson and Austin Riley and Michael Harris II to show your group that, okay, we're okay. We're gonna be fine. Where are you at on the Braves?
100%. And I think the question continues to become, like, when do you worry about the Braves? What time is it to worry? And I started thinking, because I've heard that question a million times. Obviously, we've talked about it every week on the show, but, like, people asking me on Twitter, or Braves fans when I was there in the stadium, it's like, oh my God, we're freaking out. And it started to remind me of last year with the Houston Astros. And I would get similar questions. And obviously, my brother was on the team last year, so I had a lot of people that would listen and follow me because of the Astros. And I would get that question all the time. And the Astros at this point last year, on this date, were 4-9. The start was brutal. And then I started getting the question, when do you worry about the Astros? When is it time to worry? And I would continually say, if they are 10 games out of a playoff spot at the All-Star break, is when I'm going to worry. We're nowhere close to that. So I have concern. I don't have worry yet. The offense, the track record speaks for itself. I talk to John Smoltz on my show every single week, Hall of Famer with the Atlanta Braves. Talked to him about the Braves before, talked to him about the Braves again today. And I said, look, you said concern before. Are you now worried about the Braves? And we talked about slow starts. And he said, it's interesting. When you're a team that gets off to a slow start, if you're a team that is supposed to be good, if you have the confidence to be good, if you know your team is good, a slow start isn't much more than that. It's a slow start. Where I worry is a team that has promise in a year and a team that you're excited about maybe turning the corner that doesn't have the confidence of being a great team yet, if they start slow, then I worry, okay, they're never going to get it going. But with the Atlanta Braves, we know Austin Riley's not going to hit under 200. We know Michael Harris, Ozzie Albies, Marcelo Zuna, Matt Olson. We know what they're going to do offensively. Maybe they don't have career years. Maybe they don't necessarily meet what they've always done in their career. But I promise you, Russ, they ain't 200 hitters. You know, they're bound to rebound. They are going to. We know what this team is. That's why when you play a team like the Phillies, we can sit here and say, man, we have a great matchup. Well, the Braves on paper are a great team. Their record might say they stink, but we know what they are and we know how good they are. That's why it's concern about a slow start and when are your guys going to get going, but it's not worry. And it won't be worry for 2 or 3 months if they're 10 games out of a playoff spot. We're not close yet to me saying I am worried about the Atlanta Braves.
The only reason I am with you a little bit is because they do have postseason pedigree and they have tons of veterans in that lineup and in that rotation. It's not like they have a bunch of young guys like the Seattle Mariners that, you know, got off to that fast start and then completely tanked against the Astros that you mentioned. But the other side of it for me is teams that start this slow and this poorly don't go to the postseason, right? In the history of baseball, if you start this poorly, it does not matter what you do the rest of the way, you're not going to the playoffs. And the National League is going to be really tough this year.
Yeah.
I think that's what it comes down to for me. We talk about the Padres, you know, we talk about the Chicago Cubs being a team that's better this year, the Cincinnati Reds, the Mets, the Phillies. And so you look around, there might not be that many seats at the table for you if you continue to play this way.
Well, let me ask you this, Ross, because I was thinking about this with the Braves when I was watching them last night. If you're, I look around at the elite teams in the league. I look at the Dodgers. I look at the Phillies, and I think to myself, if the Phillies got off to a slow start, Bryce Harper would light a fire under those guys' tails. If the Dodgers got off to a bad start, it's a little bit different in terms of the fire, but like the respect and the way that Freddie Freeman or Mookie Betts can lead that team. And I was thinking about it with the Braves, and it's an interesting question that I'd like to ask you because I don't know who that is with the Braves. And I don't think it's Brian Snitker. I don't think he's the fiery, like, we got to figure this out, guys. Like, who's the guy in that locker room that can come in after a loss and say, what are we doing? Tomorrow's the day. We have to figure this out now. Who is that with the Atlanta Braves?
I hear you. Chris Sale. You know, he's been known to do that during his career, but it's a pitcher. It's not a position player.
Yep.
And that's where you start to look to, you know, Dansby left. Dansby was that guy. Freddie Freeman, you know, was that guy as well. And so somebody else is going to have to be that guy in that room to say, guys, like, let's get our ish together and start playing good baseball, because if we don't, we are not going to the postseason. But we got to take our first break here on FanDuel Sports Network Live. Ben, we got some teams playing some minor league ballparks, and the ball is flying. We are going to look at some of the stats so far in the season coming up next.
Your toe chains are a little loose. Could spark a wildfire.
Thanks a lot.
Anytime. You should check out SmokeyBear.com. They've got a bunch of tips on wildfire prevention.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
I love betting on the NBA with FanDuel, especially when I've got the world's greatest basketball mind on my side. What's up, Chuck GPT?
What's up, Chuck IRL?
What do you think about this parlay?
It's great, but why don't you use me for something you really need help with?
What does Charles Barkley really need help with?
Hundreds of results found.
Uh-oh.
Fashion sense, basic math.
What?
Being on time, portion control, conflict resolution, enunciating, free throw percentage.
New customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book.
Eating vegetables.
Hey! Yo, there's someone at my door.
That's right, hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no
Hi, you
you are currently being recorded.
Hey, put the package back.
With Ring, you can make them hit the road from anywhere.
Meet Jonathan Thompson, an award-winning international travel writer on a mission to discover the world's most dynamic, adrenaline-fueled destinations. From once-in-a-lifetime outdoor adventures to local traditions and cultures, Jonathan will immerse you in the most vibrant metropolitan areas. Elevate your senses, ignite your wanderlust, and let the journey begin as he explores the world's best adventure cities.
Welcome back to FanDuel Sports Network Live. Want to remind you that watching your local team is easier than ever with FanDuel Sports Network. If we're part of your cable or satellite package, you're good to go. Just check your TV lineup for the stream. Use your TV provider to log in on the FanDuel Sports Network app. No cable, no problem. Subscribe to the app with monthly, seasonal, or annual plans. You can even stream your team on Prime Video with an add-on subscription. Availability varies by region. Don't miss a pitch. Check getmyhometeams.com now to see if FanDuel Sports Network is in your area. You can also scan the QR code in the corner of the screen. Welcome back, Russ Dorsey, Ben Verlander. Ben, we have a couple teams this year that are playing or in minor league ballparks, and that is one of them. George Steinbrenner Field, where the Angels beat up on the Tampa Bay Rays. That is their home for this season, George Steinbrenner Field. And here's the interesting thing, Ben. You see that score right there, and you look around at, Sutter Health Park where the Sacramento A's, I guess we'll call them, are playing. A lot of offense, ball flying in a lot of different places. And we had a cool graphic we could show the people at home of the Tropicana Field where the Tampa Bay Rays usually play, and George Steinbrenner Field, and you can kind of see the comparison. Now, you look at left field, it's pretty similar. Obviously, you have the wall that jets out a little bit there at the Trop. But right field, Ben, this is where we're having some things going on because the ball's been flying to right field. And if you're watching on a nightly basis, you're seeing a lot of balls to right center field today. 11-1 score. You had Mike Trout, Joe Adell, Taylor Ward each had 2 home runs. Kyron Paris has turned himself into Babe Ruth over the last couple of weeks. Had a couple home runs in that series. Do you think this is going to be an issue? I know it's an issue out in Sacramento, but you think it's going to be an issue in Florida?
Yeah, Sacramento is interesting. I do think that one. I mean, and I guess issue is like issue relative,
not in
right?
a bad way, but do you think we're just going to see a lot of offense in that ballpark?
Yeah, I think Sacramento, it continues. I do think, and we're seeing a bunch of runs scored there per game. I think I think that does continue. And I remember when I was playing, I played for 5 years professionally, and you always hear these narratives coming through the minors, right? And it's once you get to high A, you're either in the Florida State League, which is a pitcher's park, or you're in the Cal League out in California where the ball launches and those parks are small. And, the Sutter Health and where the A's are playing is a AAA park. And I actually never played there, but I do know, I think the ball is going to continue to fly there all year long. So I do have a little bit of worry there that we just score a million runs all year out there. When it comes to George Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, where the Rays are currently playing, Russ, I've played there a million times. They were in the same division I was. I played in the Florida State League for 2.5 years. They were in the same division as us. I played there a million times. I can promise you this, the ball flies in spring and this time of year right now. But come summertime, and this is a misconception that a lot of people have when talking about the ball flying, just because it gets hot does not mean the ball starts flying necessarily. In Florida, all those parks that I was playing in, they are the spring training big league stadiums. Ball flies in spring training. During the summer, when the sun goes down, it's still really hot and muggy and humid. The ball actually does not fly as much. In fact, it does the opposite. So this park that we're seeing right now in Tampa, where the Rays are playing, where the Angels are hitting a million home runs and winning ball games 11-1 like today, it actually won't be the same come July and August. That ball start hitting that wall of humidity. It won't be carrying the same. But right now, we saw it in that graphic. Right field, the whole right field. It ain't just like Yankee Stadium where it's short right at the foul pole. It it stays short in that right center gap, right field wall. Yeah, you can see it here, right out near that Tampa Bay logo on the right field side as well. So it's an issue right now, but I don't think it will be in the long term.
I am curious, especially because you talk about, the conditions, and, we see it around baseball, when it gets to the summer months and, places like Chicago where the ball flies, but some days when it's really humid because you have the lake there, the ball gets knocked down. But out in California and Sacramento where it does get warm, I do think when we had the statistics of what the park's been doing on the screen while you were talking there, it does seem like the ball is going to fly a little bit, out in Sacramento. I'm curious from your perspective. You played right field. You played right field in Steinbrenner Field, and we've already seen a couple of guys have some trouble out in right field there. I know Mike Trout a couple of nights ago kind of lost the ball. Can you take people through what it's like to see a ball there as opposed to other places?
Yeah, it really does make a big difference. And it's not the weather, the humidity like we've been talking about, or just the fact you're in a minor league ballpark. What it is, and this does make a big difference as an outfielder, is those big league stadiums that all these guys are used to playing in have an extra deck. They have a third deck on top of what all these minor league stadiums have. So when you're going to play in a minor league ballpark, these fly balls that you're seeing, unless it's a line drive right at you, if it's any higher than a line drive, instead of seeing it in the third deck, if you will, and you're getting crowds or a roof or seats, you're getting it in the clouds, in the sky, and that can be really tricky, especially at certain parts of the night. So the worst part as an outfielder, worst time of day, is just before sunset. So the stadium lights aren't yet necessarily working as well as they will, yet it's not bright outside. So you're dealing with like dusk, and it's hard to see the ball. There's no stands there to see the ball either. So it's basically clouds that are the same color as the baseball, and you're trying to catch it without much lights. Speaking of the lights aren't as good either, Russ. We're not talking about major league lights. We're talking about minor league lights. They are not as good. So there's really a lot of factors, but the big one is when I look up to catch a fly ball, instead of looking at green seats or fans where I can see the ball clearly, I'm looking up into the clouds that are often the same color as the baseball, and it's hard to see it.
Yeah, and I think the part about the lights not being as bright as the ones in the big league ballparks is the big thing, and I think you're going to have a lot of guys trying to adjust to that. And you can even see, watching games there, it does look a little bit dimmer, a little bit darker, and you get to some of those corners, the corners and the gaps where you really need to see the ball. If you're in a big league ballpark, you're not worried about it. You have the same lights all around. I think we are going to see some guys. Mike Trout's been playing outfield for a long time in the big leagues. If he's having trouble finding the baseball, I think that tells you it's going to take a little bit getting used to. But we got more coming up on FanDuel Sports Network Live. Going to give you some scores from around Major League Baseball from the day.
This year, I'm trying to ace my college bets on FanDuel. So I'm here with somebody smarter than any professor I ever had. What's up, Chuck GPT?
What's up, Chuck IRL?
What do you think about this parlay?
It's great, but why don't you use me for something you really need help with?
What does Charles Barkley really need help with?
Hundreds of results found.
Uh-oh.
Pronouncing alma mater.
What?
Remembering that there's no East Virginia. Conflict resolution. Free throw percentage.
New customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Learning the players' names.
You're sick. On vacation. And now your wife is faced with going out there. With them. Alone. But mom's having none of that. She got you a virtual visit with Amazon One Medical. And soon, beds will get delivered right to the hotel. Because no one gets out of joyful family fun. No one.
Hate is loud. It gets clicks. It gets attention. Hate, however, is actually quite small. But love is the majority. Love fills our hearts, our lives, our every day.
Meet Jonathan Thompson, an international travel writer on a mission to discover the most dynamic adrenaline-fueled destinations on the planet. Tune in to join Jonathan as he explores the world's best adventure cities.
Girls' night!
Well, remember that place we got burritos from last time?
No, but with Ring, I can find it. Food delivery?
Nice.
There it is.
Wow, this really makes you look smart.
Thanks.
With Ring, you can type it and find it.
Got some shots of Matt Olson there getting some cuts before the game tonight at Truist Park. First pitch at 7:15 on FanDuel Sports Network. And we want to remind you that watching your local team is easier than ever with FanDuel Sports Network. If we're part of your cable or satellite package, you're good to go. Just check your TV lineup for the stream. Use your TV provider login on the FanDuel Sports Network app. No cable, no problem. Subscribe to the app with monthly, seasonal, or annual plans. You can even stream your team on Prime Video with an add-on subscription. Availability varies by region. Don't miss a pitch. Check getmyhometeams.com now to see if FanDuel Sports Network is in your area. You can also scan the QR code. We welcome you back, FanDuel Sports Network Live. Russ Dorsey, Ben Verlander. Ben, we saw it during spring training, and it seemed to be a rousing success by fan perspective, player perspective. Most people were on board with it after being a little skittish coming into spring training, the ABS system. And we've already seen some missed calls here in the first couple of weeks of the season. Guys giving the old, can we challenge? I'm just kidding. How quickly do you think we'll see it in the big leagues?
I think it's not unrealistic to say we could see it next year in the big leagues. I think it was a smashing success in spring training. So this is the automated ball strike system. It is not fully automatic. We're not talking robot umps. We are talking challenge system. And it was used in spring training. We saw it take an average of under 14 seconds from start to finish. So this isn't adding a ton of time to the game. It's quick, it's easy. And Russ, I love it. The whole point is fixing the egregious call that ruins a big part of the game. So look, I really don't think it's ridiculous to say we could see this next year. I think at worst, it's after the new CBA agreement. We're seeing it then. But I liked it. What about you? Did you like it? When do you think we see it?
Yeah, I'm a fan, and I always thought it would be the right thing, because to your point, getting the call right is the most important thing. I don't like seeing games that get blown in the ninth inning by bad calls. We've seen it time and time again. I think a lasting memory that I have in my years watching baseball is Kyle Schwarber going absolutely off in the ninth inning of a game because he felt like a call was bad, and he pointed out, he was like, we think you're bad and they think you're bad. And so you prevent things like that. But also, I think everybody involved realizes that you don't want to go full robo-umps, take the human element out of baseball. Baseball is awesome because you do have that human element still. And I think there's a way to get it done. And I think we saw during spring training that it was successful. And in the minor leagues, it's been going on for a couple years now. And so the guys that are coming up into the big leagues have already been seeing how it works. So they actually got acclimated a lot quicker than big leaguers did. It took the big leaguers a little bit more time. Now that we've seen it, like most things in baseball, and guys are okay with it, I think we're going to be fine. I do think next year isn't out of the realm of possibility if, MLB's competition committee meets with, the Umpires Association, the Players Association, everybody gets on board like, hey, guys, this is the right thing. The other alternative would be when the new CBA comes in after the 2026 season. There's a lot of things on the docket for that CBA before we ever get to ABS. But I do think in the next couple of years, and it doesn't take away from the fan experience. I think that's the other big part. Baseball is such a sport where, whether you're watching at home or you're watching in a ballpark, you want to be able to know what's going on because there are a lot of small intricacies that are in baseball that aren't in the other sports. And being able to see that a challenge was successful, what is the player challenging? Are they challenging that it's a ball, that it was a strike? And that you've already started to see some of the animations that have come out with that too, and people can clearly see and understand. I think that's a big win for baseball as a whole, as well as getting all these calls right.
100%. Look, the big thing is to to not let the egregious call end a game or be part of the end of the game. We've seen it a couple times this week with the Giants and Mariners. There was a big call in the 9th inning, a missed call, strike 3, that ended up with the Giants walking it off. Then with the Mariners and Astros, a massive missed strike 3 call. You can see it here. That pitch number 6 at the bottom of the zone with 2 strikes. Really, really, really big call in the game. Goes as a ball. Guess what? A batter later, the guy ends up walking in the winning runs. We had a walk-off walk after this missed call. So getting right the big calls at the end of games so it doesn't change the outcome. It's not to get every call a centimeter off the plate changed and fix all of that. It's to get the big calls at the end of games right. So that's the big thing, but also it's fun. If you didn't see it in spring training, you challenge the pitch by tapping your head. All of a sudden, they put it up on the big screen in the outfield, and it takes 10 seconds, less than 10 seconds from that point, and the whole crowd can see the pitch released from the pitcher's hand. You see the strike zone, and you see where it lands on the plate, and everybody in real time sees whether it was a ball or a strike. It's a lot of fun for people. So I'm all in. Don't let the game end on a bad, egregious call. And today I actually asked the Hall of Famer, John Smoltz, a pitcher, about this, who, he could very easily say, it wasn't like this when I played. I hate it. Don't let it happen. He said, look, I love it. I love the fact that it's a challenge system. Do not let this get in the hands of pitchers, though. I would take the ability to challenge out of a pitcher's hands. They'll want to challenge anything and everything. Put it in the catcher's hands, put it in the batter's hands in a big spot, but don't let pitchers challenge. It'll happen at the worst time. They'll think everything is a strike, and I promise you it's not. So he doesn't like full robo-umps, but he likes the challenge system so we get the big calls right.
It'll be interesting to see how quickly we can get this to Major League Baseball with seeing how successful it was and to get those egregious calls out of the game. We got more on FanDuel Sports Network Live. There are some young studs, Ben, getting it done around Major League Baseball. We talk about a couple of those guys coming up next.
You're sick, on vacation. Good thing Amazon Pharmacy will deliver meds right to the hotel, because your wife's not going out there alone with them.
FanDuel held a shooting contest to promote its new MySpend tool. MySpend makes it easy to view your deposit and bet history all in one place. Because betting without knowing how much you're spending is like shooting in the dark. See the whole picture. Make FanDuel's MySpend tool part of your system and stop shooting in the dark.
I'm with George Mason University forward Joshua Duro for the FDA's Don't Get Burned Sunscreen Challenge.
Bring it on.
I'm not getting burned today. I'm using a broad spectrum sunscreen.
The FDA recommends broad spectrum sunscreens with an SPF of 15 or higher with other sun protection measures to reduce the risk of sunburn and skin cancer.
You smoked me, dude.
That's because I use sunscreen, so I wouldn't get burned by you and the sun.
Broad spectrum sunscreen. It's a winning play every time.
Hey, there's someone at my door.
Hi, you are currently being recorded.
Hey, put the package back.
With Ring, you can make them hit the road from anywhere.
Meet Jonathan Thompson, an award-winning international travel writer on a mission to discover the world's most dynamic, adrenaline-fueled destinations. From once-in-a-lifetime outdoor adventures to local traditions and cultures, Jonathan will immerse you in the most vibrant metropolitan areas. Elevate your senses, ignite your wanderlust, and let the journey begin as he explores the world's best adventure cities.
Welcome back to FanDuel Sports Network Live. Want to remind you that watching your local team is easier than ever with FanDuel Sports Network. If we're part of your cable or satellite package, you're good to go. Just check your TV lineup, prefer to stream, use your TV provider login on the FanDuel Sports Network app. No cable, no problem. Subscribe through the app with monthly, seasonal, or annual plans. You can even stream your team on Prime Video with an add-on subscription. Availability varies by region. Don't miss a pitch. Check getmyhometeams.com now to see if FanDuel Sports Network is in your area, or you can scan the QR code in the corner of your screen. Ben Verlander, Russ Dorsey, back with you on FanDuel Sports Network Live. Ben, we got to talk about a kid that I really love watching play. I watched him in the postseason. I interviewed him before he made his debut last year. That is one Jackson Chourio, stud for the Milwaukee Brewers, who is absolutely tearing it up right now. And you look at his first 162 games played. You look at what he's doing at 21 years old. He has one more game before he officially gets to 162. Look at those names. Mike Trout, Ronald Acuna Jr., Fernando Tatis Jr. The thing with Trout that I think people should know, if it wasn't for Miguel Cabrera having the first Triple Crown in almost 40 years, he would have won Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same season. It is absolutely insane. That shows you what type of player Jackson Chourio is. And Ben, in leading off in the postseason is not an easy thing. Leading off in the postseason at the age of 21 is also not an easy thing. And Jackson Chourio had not one, but two pumps against the New York Mets and really showed everybody who he was as a player, to wrap up his rookie year. And we love Jackson Merrill. We love Paul Skeens. Any other year, Jackson Chourio is the runaway National League Rookie of the Year last year. And because he plays in Milwaukee and it's a smaller market and you still have Christian Yelich on this roster, I don't know how many people actually know how good Jackson Chourio is, but the Milwaukee Brewers know. And they gave him a big-time extension before his first game in the big leagues, the largest we've seen for a player his age. This guy struck out 5 times in his first game of the season, and the sky was falling. All of a sudden, he has an OPS over 1,000. I love watching this guy play.
I mean, this guy's an absolute stud. Look no further than that graphic. And that graphic was through 162 games, by the way. He's only played 161. So if he hits 7 home runs tomorrow and steals 26 bases, he'll have the same numbers as Mike Trout through 162 games.
Crazy.
Look, he's an absolute stud. I like him a lot. He has a unique combination of power and running the bases that you don't find very often. That's why we saw the extension when we did. It's easy to forget this kid is still the youngest player in baseball. He hasn't even scratched the surface, in my opinion, of what he will be as a player. You learned so much throughout your years as a big leaguer, and the fact that he's doing all this last year before he can even legally drink, and now at 21 years old, is absolutely insane to me. So I just look at that graphic and see the names that are still playing at elite level on there, see him, see some other players around the league, and think, man, the game is in really good hands for a long time to come. And I couldn't agree more with you, Russ. The fact that he's leading off at the big league level in the playoffs at 20 years old is insane. And those numbers tell you everything you need to know. Let's not forget, Mike Trout is going to go down as one of the greatest players to ever play the game of baseball. Those numbers are the exact reason why. And Jackson Chourio is on a list not far behind the numbers that Mike Trout was putting up. It's remarkable.
Yeah, the Brewers, they got themselves a good one. They were very smart to lock that kid up for a long time. A guy who was also in the position Jackson Chourio was when he was a young player, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., that, his deal, $500 million deal, is now official, staying with the Toronto Blue Jays for a long time. And the details of that deal are starting to come out. Ben, get this, a $325 million signing bonus is absolutely insane. Now, he is a Florida resident, so he will not pay state income tax on that deal. He also plays in Canada, so there's different tax implications that come with that. There's no deferred money, opt-outs. There is a full no trade clause. And this is the interesting thing to me, Ben. You look at the luxury tax number, just over $35 million. That's a big deal, because what that means is from year to year, you're not going to have Vladdy Jr., even though he is going to have this $500 million deal. All that money's guaranteed. This is not football. But that's not an egregious yearly AAV. Just over $35 million. There's a lot of guys making a lot more money than than that on an annual basis. And so what that means for fans out there is the Blue Jays will continue to be able to add around Vlad Jr. over the lifetime of that deal. So when you're Vlad and you say, all right, I want to be here for a long time, how do we ensure that we have every possible opportunity to compete not only for the AL East, but for the World Series? It's that. And sometimes, Ben, you got to get creative in how you do these deals because, yes, you want to show your guy that you appreciate him, that he's deserving of this money, and that you want him around for a long time. But it can't just be one guy that has this fat contract, and now you can't add, can't make additions because now you're like, oh, shoot, we're at the first, second, or third apron of the CBT, and now we can't add around this guy that we invested in.
Yeah, there's some fascinating details in this contract. When you really look at it, I kind of love it. One, the Blue Jays gave up a lot here. There was a lot of concessions made to get this deal done. One, the signing bonus that was 65% of the entire contract. You mentioned it, but it's a massive point. So I'm going to say it again. It's the signing bonus of $325 million isn't his salary.
Right.
The signing bonus, you get taxed wherever you are a resident. So he is not a resident in Canada, meaning he is going to make far more money because he's not getting taxed in Canada. It's huge. It's huge of them to do that. Also, the fact that there is no deferred money, which teams are doing, they are giving this all up front. I mean, not up front. It's over the course of his contract, but you're easily seeing these big contracts be deferred, and that really helps the team. Not here. It's $325 million as a signing bonus. We will give you no deferrals. It's all coming at you. So, and then what it does to the luxury tax as well of $35.71 million over the next 14 years. It's just fascinating to me. We've really over the last few years come a long way in terms of not just viewing contracts as everyone does. Okay, player X got signed for 10 years for $100 million. That's $10 million a year per year. One, it started with the heavily front loaded or heavily back loaded and trying to help the luxury tax there. The luxury tax is newer, but it's really allowed contracts to look really interesting in terms of deferring money to help teams or not deferring money to help players. There seems to be a lot of flexibility. And once the numbers came out on this Vladdy Jr. contract, I was like, man, this is fascinating. And what looked like $500 million on the surface is $500 million. But what you can do with that money and what the Blue Jays did do with it was fascinating from all sides. So really looks good for Vladdy Jr. here in terms of the signing bonus.
And I think the other thing, as far as Toronto is concerned, you got a lot of money falling off the books after the 2027 season. So, George Springer's money is going to come off the books. Kevin Gausman's money is going to come off the books. Chris Bassett's money is going to come off at the end of this year. And then at the end of this year, you decide if you want to keep Bo Bichette or if you want to go in a different direction. So they have some financial flexibility, even though they've given Vladdy this $500 million deal that probably also played into this that, all right, we can give Vladdy this. He'll be the cornerstone of our future, but we're also going to have some wiggle room as we go. So I'm interested to see what the Toronto Blue Jays do this year, but also what they do in their future to build around Vladdy. We're going to take another break here on FanDuel Sports Network Live, but we're going to leave you with some of the big contracts we've seen signed over the last couple of weeks.
There I was, 16, divorced, remarried with a baby, another on the way, and I could barely read or write. Getting my high school diploma was a catalyst I needed. Now I have a bachelor's, a master's, and I became a teacher. When I look at all these success stories, I could not help but think It all started by getting my high school diploma.
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
Even the mighty might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. You may not even know you have it, but you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand. With early diagnosis, you can change the outcome and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
We're getting you set for action down in Atlanta. Phillies and Braves, the only game on the slate here tonight. You catch it on FanDuel Sports Network. That one kicking off at 7:15. Should be a good one. Spencer Schwellenbach for the Braves and Jesus Luzardo for the Phillies. Want to remind you one more time that watching your local team is easier than ever with FanDuel Sports Network. If we're part of your cable or satellite package, you're good to go. Just check your TV lineup. Prefer to stream, use your TV provider login on the FanDuel Sports Network app. No cable, no problem. Subscribe to the app with monthly, seasonal, or annual plans. You can even stream your team on Prime Video with an add-on subscription. Availability varies by region. Don't miss a pitch. Check getmyhometeams.com now to see if FanDuel Sports Network is in your area. Ben, our final segment here on FanDuel Sports Network Live. Been a good show so far, and I'm really excited for this part of the show because each of us are going to do our power rankings through the first couple of weeks of the season. So each of us have come up with the top 5 teams in baseball as of today. I've been waiting all day. I've been trying to think of what your list would be. Give me your top 5, sir.
All right. I am pumped for this as well. I do not know yours. You do not know mine. This is as of today.
Yeah.
So I do come out with power rankings every Monday. It looks a little different today than it did then. At number 5, Russ, I am going to go with the Texas Rangers. Now, the Rangers have been playing great baseball, been a really good team. For me, at the beginning of the year, this is what I said about the Rangers. They have the highest ceiling of anybody in the AL West. They might have the highest ceiling of anybody in the American League. There's just so many question marks. Well, here we sit on April 10th, and those question marks have mostly been answered. I didn't have many question marks with the offense. The question marks all came with the pitching staff. So look at what this pitching staff has done so far. They're tied for 3rd in walks plus hits per 9. Home runs allowed, tied for 3rd. Starters ERA, they are 9th in all of baseball with a 3.00 ERA. That means 3 runs on the dot per game, and they're scoring more runs than that. Look, the offense hasn't even come around. Corey Seager is finally starting to hit for a little bit of pop. Marcus Semien hadn't hit. I'm not worried about this offense. I'm worried about the pitching, and the question marks have been answered so far. So I'm going to go Rangers at 5. Am I going 5 through 1, or are we alternating?
Let you know, get the whole thing 5 through 1.
All right. At number 4, if we can put, yeah, there we go. At number 4, I'm going to go New York Mets. The offense has been great. That's why I liked them in this season, because I thought their offense was one of the best in baseball. But pitching, this is a theme here. The pitching has outperformed what everybody thought they were. The pitching has been great. Soto and Alonso and Lindor in that lineup has honestly been so much fun to watch. That's what's different about the Mets so far. The team is fun to watch. I have them at number 4. And number 3, this is the big surprise. I'm going to go Los Angeles Dodgers at 3. Here's why. And this was a change from earlier in the week when I had them as still a surprise at number 2. But I bumped them down to number 3 because it's pretty simple. They don't look good. I know who they have on their team. I know they're a great team overall, but they just don't look good right now. They just lost a series to the Washington Nationals, and they looked like the worst team in that series. So I had to bump them down from number 2, where they made James Wood look like Barry Bonds, and I'm not saying he might not be in his career. The dude's a stud, but man, he crushed them in the series. And number 2, I'm going San Diego Padres, who are leading that division. They are ahead of the Dodgers. They've looked great so far this year. So that one's pretty simple. I just bumped them ahead of the Dodgers because of where the Dodgers' poor play over the last 5 games. They lost 2 of 3 to the Phillies. They lost 2 of 3 to the Washington Nationals, which leads me to my number 1, Russ, the Philadelphia Phillies. This one's simple. They're playing great baseball. Then you have the big bad Dodgers come into town and you beat them in that series. How can I put the Phillies at the number 2 team in my power rankings behind the Dodgers when you just beat them head to head in a series? I couldn't do it, so I put them in number 1.
All right. So I like what you put together here. The only one that I was like, that's interesting is the New York Mets. And I like the reasons that you gave, but you know, in a top 5, you're going to have a team or 2 that could make it, could drop off.
Yep.
I agree with everything you said about the Philadelphia Phillies. The Dodgers, I'm also with you there. They've lost 4 of their last 6 games. So, you know, if we're talking about today, they're not the best team in baseball today. But here's my top 5, Ben. We have 4 of our 5 teams are the same. So San Francisco Giants, number 5 team for me. I have the Texas Rangers as the 4th team for me. The Dodgers as the number 3 team, just like you. But this is where I have the flip-flop. I have the Phillies as the number 2 team and the San Diego Padres as the best team in baseball today. Now, big thing for me with the Padres is I just love the way they're playing baseball right now. They've had some guys in and out of the lineup. Jackson Merrill's been on the IL. You know, Fernando Tatis Jr. has been a little banged up. Doesn't matter. They're still winning ball games. I get what you're saying. The Phillies had the Dodgers come through and, you know, absolutely made them look like the Little League team. And no disrespect to the Dodgers there. But in that series, they did not play their best baseball. They're throwing the ball away. You got Mookie throwing the ball to the crowd and things like that. But I think they're going to be fine. The Rangers, they came through to Chicago, you know, played a really good, you know, Cubs team that, you know, we could make an argument that they could have been in this top 5 as well.
For sure.
Came away, you know, with a win in the end of that series yesterday. And then the Giants, rounding out my top 5, I think they're playing great baseball as well. Haven't necessarily played the level of competition that the other 4 teams have, but they did deserve to be in the top 5 for me.
Here's the interesting thing I'd add to that, Russ. I mentioned that I do power rankings every Monday. I had the Giants at 5. So within a couple of days, I've moved them down to probably 6, just because you lost 2 out of 3 to the Cincinnati Reds. So I did bump them down 1. But it is interesting you had them at 5. I had them at 5 earlier this week. Very good team, and they're fun to watch this year. We talked about them last show. It's just been a lot of fun watching them. So tough to disagree with your list for sure.
The baseball is a long season, and our list could look completely different by tomorrow, depending on the way some of these teams play. This is another fun edition of FanDuel Sports Network Live. For Russ Dorsey, that is my man Ben Verlander. We will catch you guys next time.
I love betting on the NBA with FanDuel, especially when I've got the world's greatest basketball mind on my side. What's up, Chuck GPT?
What's up, Chuck IRL?
What do you think about this parlay?
It's great, but why don't you use me for something you really need help with?
What does Charles Barkley really need help with?
Hundreds of results found.
Uh-oh.
Fashion sense, basic math.
What?
Being on time, portion control, conflict resolution, enunciating, free throw percentage.
New customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Eating vegetables.
Where's that game we always play?
I don't know, but with Ring I can find it. Board game. Oh, man.
If I may, search raccoons.
There's a lot of results. Oh, look, the masquerade party. What a party.
Girl, you have a raccoon problem.
With Ring, you can type it and find it.
Meet Jonathan Thompson, an international travel writer on a mission to discover the most dynamic adrenaline-fueled destinations on the planet. Tune in to join Jonathan as he explores the world's best adventure cities.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those barbecues you plan in detail for your family? Or your daughter's first costume party? It was out of this world. The same way you plan each detail for those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
That's infected. Maybe getting a tattoo at a 3-day music festival was a bad idea. Lucky for you, an Amazon One medical virtual visit can happen anywhere. Even here. An Amazon pharmacy will deliver antibiotics right to you. So you can breathe easy. Well, sorta.